TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Stallion Malibu Moon, AP Indy's leading sire 7 years running. Congratulations to the connections of impressive Acorn winner Karina Mia, Malibu Moon's 10th Grade 1 winner.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, I got to say, the Belmont Stakes is usually kind of a boring race if you don't have the Kentucky Derby winner in there or if a Triple Crown's on the line. But man, this one just felt like it was going to be different. It felt like there was a lot of excitement surrounding it. The two horses that you and I like, we come down to a nose at the wire. I mean, it really was a great race, and it was exciting to watch.
Yeah, so they run a mile and a half, and it comes down to, 3 inches at the wire. And, there's not been many classics that I can recall that, have been in doubt within the last, 50 or so yards. And to have a nose finish like that, and not only a horse hold on by a nose, I mean, you had Creator come and actually get it done right on the shadow of the wire. That's as exciting as it gets, certainly. Both colts ran tremendous. You have to applaud the connections of both colts.
Sure.
Certainly both of them looked awesome coming into the race. And a lot of upside for both these colts going forward, I think.
It's interesting because we're good friends with both of these connections. So it was one of those races where we're kind of watching. We both liked, I liked Creator in the race. You liked Destin. So it was really weird because you're watching this long stretch run and you're like, oh man, they're just battling it out. But it's hard to choose who that you wanted to win. But I do remember a few years back, WinStar was on the other side of a nose out, and that was with Commissioner. So it was kind of nice to see the roles reversed, and Creator is a nice colt. One thing's for sure with this horse and this crop of 3-year-olds, it looks like we're going to have an exciting summer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even add, horses like American Freedom from the Bob Baffert barn into the mix, who didn't quite make it to the Classics. I mean, I think this is a great group, when you get Nyquist coming back into the fold now. It's a great group in terms of being a competitive group. Let me just say that. I mean, we'll see if any other superstars emerge. We'll see if Creator, can continue it and go on. I mean, you mentioned, horses losing by a nose. A nose has cost me a couple times in the last 3 years in the Belmont. Obviously, I had Commissioner. If he holds on, it's a much bigger payday. And I will confess, I had Destin pretty heavily here. And even though our Exacta paid $269, it was a good day. That was a tough beat for me. Watching Destin come down the stretch, open up, and then yield there in the shadow of the wire. Very exciting race at Belmont, John. This 3-year-old crop should be exciting to watch going forward to the Travers and Jim Dandy.
There was a lot of stuff made with Gettysburg being in the race and how that was going to affect strategy. And then after the race, you see a lot of social media buzz. But really, I feel like Gettysburg, I don't think he really compromised Destin. It really didn't feel like he was a horse that changed the outcome of the race very much. Tell me, what do you think?
Well, we'll never know. However, I do think it was a very moderate pace like we thought. That track, more importantly, was playing fair. Now, the turf course was ridiculous. They were setting stakes record after track record, and it was ridiculous how fast that turf course was. I was very disappointed in that. But the dirt track, unlike last year, was very fair, John. I mean, I thought, the speed had a shot. I thought the closers had a shot. I didn't really see a bias anywhere in terms of a path of the racetrack. So I was happy to at least see that. And the race set up like we thought, moderate fractions. And a horse like Destin was able to stalk from the inside, clip along those 12.5-second furlongs like we talked about, and keep on going to the wire. That's the kind of trip I thought he would get. The real surprise for me was Stradivari. I do think Gettysburg hurt his chances a little bit because when he broke, one gate out from him, he crossed over. He outbroke Stradivari, broke a little flat-footed, crossed over in his path. Right. Johnny V decided to take back as opposed to show speed. I think with Gettysburg not in the race, he would have gone to the lead from the gate. And I think, who knows, maybe that would have allowed him to stay further. But still, no real excuses, I thought, for Stradivari. There's a very high probability that he's more of a brilliant mile-and-eighth type horse anyway than a horse that really wants to see out a mile and a half.
So I know each year we talk about the dosage, we really talk about pedigree, and we do take a little bit of heat, because you got a formula that you kind of stick to with the Belmont. Yeah. It looks like that formula has really worked again this year when you kind of look at the horses and how they performed.
I mean, I absolutely do think it did. People might say, well, hey, Seeking the Soul, he ran next to last, and yeah, sure he did. He just won a maiden race about 12 days prior. So on class, certainly the 2 Dallas Stewart horses did not run well. However, if you're just looking for clusters and you're looking for horses that maybe were overbet that didn't perform, I mean, look at Exaggerator. I mean, Turner for Home, he's right there. And he fades badly to where he's almost pulled up. Here's a horse that we didn't like at all. We talked about him having a California Chrome-like stamina profile, and he runs 11th in the race as the clear class of the race, John. So I think that that shows you a little something. Same with Cherry Wine. He's the 4th choice in the betting interest, was the 3rd choice until late. Stradivari got more money than him. You know, he ran 7th, and his pedigree said that he would not fire in this type of race. And you look at Lonnie. I mean, I tell you what, if Lonnie isn't so wide out on the track,
right,
he might win the race. I mean, honestly, go back and look and see how wide he is taking those turns. I mean, you don't want to take that big turn at Belmont as wide. I mean, he's tracking 3 or 4 wide down the backstretch. He comes onto the far turn and he stays 3 or 4 wide, loses ground on the turn, re-engages and rallies for 3rd, what, a length and a half behind Destin for 2nd and the whole thing. So big race for him. He obviously liked a mile and a half. Creator got the trip, though. That was the key. Irad knows that track well.
Yep.
For him to navigate from the 13th hole all the way over to the rail by the time they hit the first turn, and then for him to pick his way through traffic, have it open up for him. Governor Malibu almost shut him off. He's able to dodge that. He really earned his mount fee in the money that day. He's the reason Creator was able to run down Destin.
You know, you mentioned Lonnie in here. That horse really matured in his time. When he first got here for the Kentucky Derby, he was a wild horse. I mean, everybody was talking about his antics and how crazy he was going to be. I really have seen that horse mature quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see if they bring him back, you know, into the Breeders' Cup maybe this year. He'll be a horse to watch for sure.
Yeah, he's not a very fast horse. You know, he's a grinder. He doesn't really have a move, but he certainly liked a mile and a half more than most of his contemporaries, like the numbers suggested, and that's why he was 3rd. And again, I still think with a better trip, watch out, Lonnie might be the one that's taking the trophy back to Japan, but it's something we'll never know. But I just think here when you start, I mean, sudden breaking news, 2nd choice, John, 4.2 dosage, didn't show up, was nowhere. So I just think the evidence, again, you know, if we're looking at, I'm not saying this is a 100% system, and we saw Shaman Ghost, who had a big dosage number, win the mile and a half Brooklyn earlier on the day. Now, he was a class of the race, and he showed last year as a 3-year-old he could handle a real true marathon classic, American classic type distance. Even though he was a Ghost Zapper out of a Gilded Time mare and didn't really figure to do that, he outran his pedigree. We see that from time to time. However, when I'm taking a shot on horses that haven't done something they've ever, and they'll never do it again, they've never done it before, I'm going to take a look deeply at the pedigree, especially on a big sandy racetrack like Belmont Park. And again, our system, I think, graded out pretty well. I mean, the Tri paid $2,700, Super paid in $27,000. And it's because you had those favorites that weren't bred for it that were out of the money.
All right, so we're going to close the book on the Triple Crown. The season is done. We're going to transition. We'll start talking about Breeders' Cup. You know, we'll take a month off or so, and we'll start talking about these horses coming into the summer. But like we mentioned, it looks like there's some really good horses. I'm excited to start talking about some of the fillies, too. You know, we kind of focus in on the Triple Crown. We talk a lot about colts. But, Joel, there's a lot of good fillies who are out there right now, too, including Beholder.
Oh, there's no question about it. I was disappointed to see Carolina. Looks like she may have bounced and regressed off of, you know, her Churchill performance, because I thought she looked good in the post parade. A little disappointed for her, but then you saw, you know, obviously the big performance from cavorting in that race. And you start looking at the filly division, it looks competitive. And if I'm a filly right now, I'm probably not too scared of Beholder, because she's more than likely at Santa Anita, you know, barring anything going wrong, she's going to end up in the Classic at the end of the year, not the distaff. So you're right. We've got competitive divisions across the board. I mean, we didn't even talk about Frosted. That was one of the best performances I think I've seen in person, maybe ever. I mean, that was unbelievable, John, how when he swapped over his left lead, he just poured in. I mean, I'm talking a matter of 3 strides. He's separating from those horses to win by that margin. It was a brilliant, unbelievable performance. Just took your breath away.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Classic. I mean, his connections, they basically said, yeah, that was a winning you in for the mile, but I don't think you're going to see him in the mile. I think it's going to be a great Classic. If we can get all these horses, California Chrome, Beholder, Frosted, I mean, Classic's going to be unbelievable again this year.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned, you know, Creator and Destin, 2 colts I do think still have a lot more upside. I think you're going to see a physical and mental development of Destin continue on, and he's going to be a serious Travers horse. Same with Stradivari, same with some of these colts. But let's talk about Creator for a minute. I won't take long, but I found it really interesting at WinStar. You know, who's doing it better than WinStar right now? 17 starters in the Derby in the last 11 years since 2006. The only year they didn't have a starter was 2011. And look, I remember talking to the WinStar connections, and they were a little down on the 3-year-olds in late February, and they weren't sure whether or not they were going to make it this year. And here's this horse. In his 6th try, finally breaks his maiden. 2 weeks later, he's on the board in the Rebel, parlays that into an Arkansas Derby win. Had no shot in the Kentucky Derby, but now comes back and wins the Belmont, and looked great through it all. I mean, a horse that was really thrown to the wolves like that, you know, particularly 2 weeks off a maiden race to win the Rebel, then win the Arkansas Derby, big performance, shipped to Churchill. I was expecting to see a horse that maybe looking to go the other way. However, if you remember, he was one of the better looking horses of the 20 that we saw training all week in the 10 days leading up to the Kentucky Derby. and they were finally able now to break through the Belmont Stakes. So kudos to WinStar and kudos to Twin Creeks. I mean, what a phenomenal way to wrap up the Triple Crown.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with these horses, with things that California Chrome's doing, running later, you know, staying in training. It's going to be interesting to see if more people kind of follow suit. Maybe we see less 3-year-olds retiring. We see more 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds staying on the track.
I think we will, and I think it's that Pegasus race. You know, the fact that they're giving away $12 million there, I think you're going to see Dubai. I mean, you already saw the Breeders' Cup Classic bump their purse a little bit just to make sure nobody skips that race, right? And with the Pegasus for $12 million, I think you're going to see Dubai follow suit. They're probably going to move their purse to $15 million, in my opinion. It's rumors I've been hearing, and I certainly would understand that. So I think that's going to keep more horses in training.
It's going to be exciting to talk about for sure. Thank you guys for sticking with us through the Triple Crown season. We look forward to talking about Breeders' Cup here in about a month.